My name's Don Baughman. I'm a retired professor from UW-Stout in psychology department, and I worked with Charlie Kruger, who's another professor in organizational leadership, to develop something called the Leadership Academy, which we've been doing now for the last 14 years. That's a one-week intensive training program. The part I do has a lot to do with what I did at UW-Stout. I really had the only course on campus that was trying to help people learn how to be more effective in their human communications, both in their professional life and in their personal life. And you're going to try to get from me in the next month the most powerful things anybody ever taught me about how to create healthy communication. I just want to pass it on to you. My goal is really simple. I want each of you, even those of you that have had this before, to leave here a more powerful person after every presentation than what you were when you walked in. And what I mean by that in the context of human relationship is, if you're a powerful person, you always have choice no matter what the other person does. And when you can get to that point, then you have the ability to control the next direction the relationship goes. And that's a wonderful skill to have. Now, I'm going to add a couple layers onto this because of some people who have had this before. In the Leadership Academy, we talk a lot because people who come to the Academy ask about this. They say, you know, how can we create greater trust in the workplace or on a work team? How can we create greater respect on a work team or in an organization? And I can tell you that in my experience, the most powerful and the quickest way that that happens on a work team or in an organization is somebody takes a risk to make themselves vulnerable. What do I mean by vulnerable? How do you make yourself vulnerable? Well, admitting when you make a mistake. Apologizing when you screw up. Being willing to admit you don't know. To ask for help when you need it. When you ask somebody for assistance, what you're telling them is that they have something of value to offer you. That's a compliment to them, right? But so how many times in our lives have we sat there struggling with something and we didn't ask for help? And then the most powerful time to create vulnerability is when you're lost and you don't know what to do about something, and then you talk about what's not working in your life or in your job or in a relationship. To talk openly and honestly about what's not working. That is the pinnacle of vulnerability that creates trust. Now, with a work team or with an organization, the best relationships always happen on the other side of difficult times. You got to go through the difficult time, the not working thing, to get there. This is true in your personal life too. If you have not had difficult struggles in a relationship, you haven't really got a very deep relationship yet. You got to go through those to create the powerful relationship. Okay, so that's just an overview. Let me tell you that all of us are a little screwed up when it comes to relationships, but let me tell you it's not your fault. Okay? You see, because you were a smart little sucker just like I was, and you thought that if you just watched the big people, you could figure out how it all worked, and then you would just do what they did and everything would be fine. Until one day, I don't know when it happened to you, maybe you can remember the exact time and place, when you figured out that the big people didn't know what they were doing, especially in relationship. And that if you just kept watching them and that was going to be your guide, you were in deep trouble. And so then you were left with, well, geez, where do I go from here? Because none of us had really, really healthy models, or if you did, you're a very rare exception growing up. And so we accidentally picked up all kinds of bad habits in relationship, and then because we've seen them so many times, I mean, how many thousands of times did you watch the big people deal with misunderstanding, deal with conflict, deal with problems? And then you thought, oh, that must be how you do it. Not knowing that there's a very, very small percentage of big people who know how to deal with misunderstandings, communication breakdowns, conflicts, and problems in a healthy and a constructive way. Because they made the same mistake we made. They watched the big people too. And they picked up all those bad habits. Now our hope is that each generation can get a little bit healthier in terms of how to create healthy relationships. So that's what we're going to try to play around with. So, my favorite quote is this. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. I'm going to, over the next 9 sessions, I'm going to be trying to change how you look at relationship. I don't want to take away from you any way you look at them right now. I just want to give you more choices. So I want to add on to all the ways you already have of thinking about relationships. Another quote that's kind of like this that I like a lot is, when you change your mind, you change your life. So I want you to go back into your own life story and think about times when in a relationship you were stuck in some kind of a painful not working. In other words, the relationship wasn't working. And can you think of times where that occurred to you, right? Now, what I want you to keep in mind with any difficult relationships in your life in the past or in the present, when you get to these points where you know it's not working, and when it's not working, it is painful. When you know it's not working, could you think about any way that you could think about it different? Could you steal something from me that would give you another way to think about that once you can think about it different, you know what? You can respond to it different. And as soon as you respond to it different, there's a possibility that something different is going to happen. And a lot of times when it's painful, it really doesn't matter what the different is. Anything's better than what's happening now. Have you ever been in a situation where it felt that bad? Anything's better than this, so why don't I try something? Okay, so the key to being able to do that is these simple words, which we'll try to bring life to over the course of the next 9 sessions. Awareness gives you choice, and choice gives you power. What do I mean by awareness? Well, it's not that easy. See, because the first thing you got to do is you got to be aware of yourself. So in the heat of a conflict, do you have much self-awareness? And if you're an average human being, the answer is no. You're on automatic pilot. You know, you're just doing whatever comes next. You don't even know what you're going to say next or do next. You don't really know what's going on with you. You don't know where your behavior's coming from. It's just coming out. You lack awareness, right? If you could have greater awareness at that moment in time about what is really going on with you, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? What am I wanting? What am I doing? If you had that awareness, then you could change what you're doing automatically into what would be the best choice I could make right now that have the best possibility of taking this in a direction I want it to go. So awareness gives you choice. Now that's just the first level. Awareness of myself, that's hard enough. What about awareness of the other person? Have you ever noticed in the heat of a conflict you don't really much give a rip about what's going on with the other person? You're more concerned about what you're going to do next. But it can be very, very helpful if you know how to tune into what's going on with them. What are they feeling? What are they wanting? What are they thinking? What's the information they're taking in? What are they even doing? The more awareness you have of the other person, the more you can understand what might be the most helpful thing for them that they need right now in order for them to change what they're doing. And we'll talk about how you can have the power to do that. That's the second level of awareness. Awareness of yourself, awareness of the other person. Now it gets more complex than that. There's a third level, and that is what's happening between the two of you. And can you be aware of that? And can somebody change what's happening there? And we're going to play with that a little bit later this morning, so that'll make more sense. So remember I said my goal was I want you to leave a more powerful person than what you came in. And so this is going to be what I'm going to do to try to help you become a more powerful person. I'm going to give you some ways to think about relationship that will increase your awareness of yourself, the other person, and what's happening between you. That should give you greater choice. And if you can make different choices, then you can have different outcomes. That's what gives you the power to control where a relationship is going.